right, cool. We are live.
We live.
Yeah. What's up, everyone?
How's it going? We're back. It's been a few weeks since we did one of these. Been traveling to some conferences as well as just heads down building some exciting features. So excited to share some updates.
Sweet. Yeah, let's just give a couple minutes here for people to get on, and then jump right into it. As always, feel free to use the chat to ask any questions. Hopefully a couple busy days in the markets.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Yeah.
I think last 2 weeks have been a lot of movements, I'd say, in the markets, both from just asset value perspective, but also some news on the DeFi side that we've been monitoring and tracking quite closely. Coming out of that, we have actually an exciting feature also coming up shortly that we'll give some alpha on, but it's really useful for kind of what happened last week, and we can unpack that. I know it's been a hot topic, even some conferences we went to discussing the stream finance kind of impacts and the downstream impacts to DeFi coming out of that. Just to TLDR on that front.
This is a tweet here, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah, stream finance had what they call the stable coin, and behind that stable coin they had deposits that generally should be going to risk-free kind of assets like a real stable coin does, right? But in this case they seem to have mismanaged. There appears to be some fraud also involved. I'm sure more and more details will come out on that front. But the point is, about 93 million gap was eventually exposed, therefore leading to the significant depeg, right, of the XUSD stablecoin. What does that mean? XUSD was being used as collateral in a lot of DeFi protocols, and people were borrowing against that. And when you expect that to be 1-to-1, that's what your collateral value is. Therefore, that's what you can borrow against. But that dropped to 23 cents almost immediately, which then meant that those pools and vaults specifically were under collateralized. People lending there were lending against assets. So there were some downstream impacts. Morpho, Euler, Aave, not really at all. At least I didn't see any. What happened to our users? None were impacted, knock on wood.
Well, yeah, I mean, our users were dynamically rebalanced out once, like anybody that had any exposure to any of these pools were rebalanced out. They obviously had to have their configuration set to more than just these exposed pools, but it was just a single pool on Morpho and a single pool on Euler that each had 1% to 2% exposure on the collateral side. Some of our users that were in those pools got rebalanced out by the metal end algorithm, and those pools were also blacklisted from any new deposits. And you can even see now the Morpho UX is saying that there's volatile collateral here. This is not a pool that's eligible for anybody to even select anymore. But yeah, this is kind of the value that Metal End provides in terms of allowing you to select a broad set of pools, and then your funds rotate based on parameters you set. Nick, do you want to?
Yeah, I want to talk about, I think, what's exciting about the feature that we're launching here, which is getting really good feedback from institutions, from retail users across the board. And what happened here is what users found out about this, they have to go and check, right, their protocols, they have to try to withdraw. This causes a little bit of a bank run in general, which happens, even in the traditional finance space, but it caused a little bit of a bank run. And really, it's unfortunate for the last few. Again, our users have some automation, gratefully, and they were able to get out by that automation that we give to them. But for the other users that don't use MetaLend, they have to go, and if they might be the last ones holding the bag, they have to kind of eat it. So a feature that we're launching here is liquidation checks. So meaning you as a depositor or an institution as a depositor can select, yes, I want to maximize my yields across the following configuration, but also take into account that there is enough liquid cash or liquid stablecoin sitting in that depositing account at all times. So let's say I deposit $100,000 and I set my threshold to say at all times, make sure there's enough liquidity times 5. That would mean that we do automation checks that there's always 500,000 or greater liquid available cash to be pulled out. And if it ever goes below that point, we rebalance you out of that. So it's optimization, but it's also now our users will never be the last ones ever holding the bag. And that is peace of mind. That you can sleep. That is a savings account kind of experience that we've been working on. So that'll be coming out soon.
Yeah. And then as always, I mean, for those of you who haven't seen the UX, you have always been able to pick specific pools. We always encourage people to do their diligence, do their research on the pools specifically. There were even some users that, as mentioned, had the pools that ended up being compromised selected as eligible, and their funds were there. Again, they did get rebalanced up, but there was one user in particular who had only that pool selected. We just reach out to them via email and say, hey, I'm not sure if you're aware of what's going on, but you actually are one of our only user that has selected just this pool. You might want to take a look. They came in, adjusted, and added more pools to the configuration, and then we're able to get rebalanced out. So yeah, basically what Nikhil's talking about in terms of the liquidity checks, we're going to be expanding this so you can set that threshold. But even without that, you can see the name of the curator, the name of the pool. Here, we're going to make it easier for people to even filter, maybe a quick filter on, hey, I only want Gauntlet, which is viewed as one of the more secure ones as well. And then also, I know people do their determinations based on TVL. Also, we're building out dynamic TVL. So similar to the liquidity check, you can say, I only want to be in a pool with 100 mil plus in total TVL or deposits. And then if a pool starts at 120 and then dips to 90, we'll rebalance you out of there based on your parameters. And so it's all about kind of giving more controls to users. Another thing that we do want to build in that vein or along those lines is collateral checks. So back to the Morpho dashboard, you can see under the hood what is the market exposure for a pool. And so this is where I think it's removed now after users kind of took the hit here. I believe that's what MEV put out as an announcement. You can see the exact collateral that there's exposure to. The majority of this is to some tokenized T-bill, but then again, there's diligence that needs to be done on the token here specifically and being like, who's issuing this token? Is it audited on what frequent basis? How do you know that the person that's tokenizing this actually is holding the funds? That was the issue with Restream Finance, that their tokenized XUSD, which was like some yield bearing quote unquote stablecoin, they were not good for the money that they were actually holding. But curators, in this case, MEV and RE7 apparently, and I'm sure there were a few others, created pools for that. So letting people in our UX eventually also select what collateral they want exposure to and which ones they don't want exposure to. So just giving more and more options and controls to our users so that if something like this happens, you know that you have set the risk parameters on your end and MetaLend is checking block by block, literally the fastest possible in case there is something that is now against your configuration to get you out of there. So becoming more of not just the highest yield option and automation to get you the highest yield, but also configured to your safety settings specifically, and giving you more and more of those safety controls is definitely top of mind for us.
Yeah, so we get asked often from users, again, and institutions on, hey, why use Metalend instead of directly, right, depositing into a Morpho or an Aave or any of the protocols directly? And the answer is pretty clear and easy. It's because the features as a fintech layer Metalend are not offered at that level. The rebalancing, the safety checks, getting out of a pool when it has kind of the red flags. Don't want to call out Morpho by any means. They've done a great job in advancing the DeFi space. But this is what they offer to their users is a red banner saying proceed with caution. We don't feel like that is where the masses will adopt DeFi. The masses want to be able to sleep at night. They want to be able to be in liquid pools that they can get out of. That is the benefit of DeFi. That is also the core of our earn and spend feature, right? Your deposits got to be liquid in order to spend it. That is the beauty of it. So yeah, taking this learning, advancing the space from it, it's sometimes necessary. Impacts weren't huge. The curator models were in touch with Euler and Morpho executive teams. I believe they're revisiting the curator model in general and the diligence on that side. I know they're an infrastructure and they don't really per se have any involvement when people stand up these pools, but they are revisiting, I think, some of those. I see a question in the chat here about will Metalend ever be a curator? We are approved as a curator and it's on our roadmap. We would have very specific kind of vaults. They wouldn't be around any of this looping mechanism. We wouldn't be just optimizing yield. We're interested in curating for real world assets. A lot of the real world assets that are coming on chain, such as metals and stocks and real estate, we think is a great collateral, quality collateral for on chain, therefore providing stronger long-term yields. So that's where we're really going to play a role. More to come on that end. It's on the roadmap. It's soon, probably Q1, I'd say. But yes, we will be involved on that side as well.
Sweet. Yeah. So aside from that, just keep an eye out. We'll be making a lot of these announcements on these security updates and features. There's even other ones that we didn't even mention that we are going to be bringing out, such as, for example, curators on Morpho and Euler have the ability to edit collateral types that are in a pool, things like that, where, again, that's not something that you as a user get made aware of when you're already have a position in Morpho or Euler. And these are the sorts of things where the moment that happens, regardless of the collateral is, we can rebalance users out of there, make sure things are stable, even email users, etc. So there's a lot of automation and things that we can do and that we are going to be doing that make Metalend the safest option as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks all for joining. We'll be back in a few weeks with some more exciting updates. Send over questions, feedback in our X or directly at support@metalend.tech.
Thanks, everyone.